Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bonus Wave. This time with your weekly update edition. I am your host, Mark Resurrectus, joined today by my very good friends, Mick Fightmaster, a CSM 19 member, individual, and of course, famed No Vacancies FC BedDaBaws. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the weekly update. How are you both doing?
Doing well.
Good. Yeah. Don't everybody talk at once.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on here. This came about because George Mitchell said we should do it. Shout out George Mitchell, the GOAT. Full of good ideas, turns out. So we're going to do this. Each week, I don't know if it's always going to be on Wednesday. We might do it, move it a day forward, a day back. We'll see. Whatever works out best for the old schedule. But we are going to do this show just so we can kind of talk about things that happened in the last week. Maybe it'll just be me. Maybe I'll have guests. Today I do, which is great. It's a good place to kick it off. And we're going to just talk about wormhole stuff. I mean, we haven't really had a proper wormhole. Yeah, we've had a couple wormhole shows off and on, but none that I've been a part of. So, so we're going to do it like this. We're going to talk about things that are happening in wormhole space. We're going to talk about some meta stuff. We're going to talk about fights. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So, but before we kick things off, for the folks at home, gentlemen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, talk to us a little bit about what you do and where you're from and what group you run with. You're both from the same group, so it's pretty straightforward. I guess you don't need to really go into too much history there, but Mick, let's start with you. What's your story?
Oh boy, the famed story.
Famed story.
So I joined Eve, if you will, back in like 2009. I was a cool little high sec mission runner dude. Because a buddy of mine who lived a floor below me in the dormitories was like, "Yo, check out this game," and I was like, "All right, I'm not doing anything." So I started playing, and eventually one day I saw this thing called a Sino, and it got me really excited. Went to NullSec, and then I was like, "Nah, this is too big," and ended up forming a Wormhole Corp. Been living there ever since. It's been awesome. I love it. I've kind of had a chance to experience being in that small 5-10 man core group, and then also had a chance to experience some the biggest fights that we've had in wormhole space. It's been a great journey. Had a chance to meet a lot of really cool people, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to actually have an impact on building out wormhole space this year. So hoping to continue that trend.
Hell yeah. Bed, let's talk about you. I imagine it's more like you've been in the wormhole space for a long time, yeah?
Pretty much all the time that I've been playing Eve, but that does mean a lot less time than Mick, because I also started playing in a dorm, but that means 2020 for me. So...
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, you guys are fucking ancient.
Oh, man. I was not ready for that, dude.
Yeah.
Woo, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're
but
good.
Started out in Eve Uni in the good old land of WHC, and then moved to NOVAC in 2021, and have been gaming ever since.
All you've done is add 2 letters to the end of that, to
pretty much.
Wormhole C, Wormhole CFC, no big deal.
All the same thing.
All basically the same thing. Okay, well, hey, look at this. We have a ton of cool stuff to get into. We're gonna lead off with some talking about some changes that happened over the last for the expansion. In fact, I should have done this a moment ago, but I didn't because I wasn't sure if we were going to get to it, and I think I want to start with it. Something to do. We're going to talk about patch notes real fast from the last expansion, which was, I say last expansion, the last the major balance patch. Let's skip ahead to, which area do I want to go to? Let's go to this screen real fast. Okay, here we go. Look at this. Hey, got a lot of screens. Let's talk for a little bit about some changes. So, I mean, obviously there was a bunch of balance changes, and a lot has been said kind of back and forth about what those changes are going to do and how they're going to change the meta, especially when it comes to NullSec, because of course Railgun's got a pretty major nerf, and Rails and projection have been kind of the meta in Null for a long, long time. But there have been some other changes as well. Obviously, the Marauder change was pretty significant. Getting rid of the jump drive cooldown, getting rid of the fall-off bonus for Vargers, and then restricting them from the ESS. So let's just talk real quick. I mean, speaking as content creators yourselves, I know you guys have both kind of been on that grind with regards to content creation. with Marauders kind of taking an adjusted role, which is to say, being nerfed pretty considerably. Do you see this as a positive balance change for the worm people, or is this not something that I mean, most fleets that you run into, at least it feels like most fleets you run into, aren't super Marauder heavy these days on account of the many changes, especially the mass change from a couple years ago. So where do you think Marauders fit in the meta right now? Let's start with you, Mick.
Well, I think the balance pass was something that was needed. I specifically like the fact that they got rid of the eligibility to go into ESSs. I think that enabled a lot more like engaging gameplay than just kind of like the auto win button when you decloak at 200 with your Artie Varga or Cruise Golem.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll have a huge impact outside of making PvE a little bit harder. It's going to make it a little bit more annoying for like people who crab and Vargers and stuff like that. But the thing that's super exciting about the change is this makes the triple Ancil fits, the triple Ancil Vargar Golem fits way less viable.
Yeah.
And it gives a lot of love to armor Marauders, which have historically always suffered from over repping or not being able to compete. So I'm excited to see how people might use armor Marauders in small gang now, and see how that might kind of shift.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first comments I heard afterwards was that the PvP Kronos is back on the menu because the PvP Kronos, among all the speaking of the issues that armor Marauders were facing for a long time, the PvP Kronos, especially with its overreps, was kind of a joke for a long time. And bringing that a little bit back into viability is kind of nice, which is pretty cool. So, Bed, looking at this real fast, I mean, obviously this is pretty very limited, mostly towards like smaller gangs, because most like fleet types, like I said, don't usually drop Marauders on account of the mass issues. From the point of view of an FC, if you are, let's say, rolling and you happen to be scanning down a chain, you find a couple Marauders, do you feel more or less inclined to take that fight than you were a couple days ago?
I don't know that it makes a big difference for PvE Marauders, but for PvP stuff, it probably makes me more excited to fight them just because you can't fly the cheap ass like 1.6 build triple Ancil Vargers.
Yeah. So
the fact that you actually got to pimp them out just a little bit to get effectiveness out of them, I think is a great change. So.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, this was, I think, something that Swift said too when we were talking a couple days ago at work. The comment about how killing a Vargar and then finding out that it's just T2 bullshit is bullshit. Really sucks. And good to see that kind of go the way of the dodo. Moving along, a couple of little changes here and there. I mean, not little changes. These are pretty big changes, like I said, for nullsec. Obviously, the Ferox Navy was super popular for a long time, fairly ISK efficient, and had a lot of projection. Seeing that brought down into kind of parity with some other things. Medium and large rails. Just to kind of bounce us off you guys here real fast. The railgun change is interesting for wormholers because I don't really feel like they get much use outside of nano fleets. Does this feel like anything that's going to move the needle to you, Mr. Fightmaster?
I think it kind of sucks for small gang folks, especially. I feel bad for people who used to fly the Rail Proteus because that thing was super cool. It's like watch. There was also like the Rail Demos, which was really cool. These rail-based ships that kind of ended up being collateral damage when I think the majority of the problems surrounded the Ferox, Vulture, and Roke. I guess you could throw the Naga in there as well. But yeah, I don't know. The community's pretty rough. Like they're pretty hardened up. They'll adapt. But it's unfortunate to see a tool removed from the chest when I think it could have been a more pointed change potentially. But
this does kind of strike me as something that is just one of those cyclical things, right? It has been in favor for a long time, like heavy missiles were for a long time, still are in a lot of cases, and just kind of as things become more or less dominant in that meta, we'll see things phase out. Obviously, nullsec gets a lot of attention because there's where the headlines are, which is half the reason for this show, by the way, viewers. Just in case you are unsure about telling your friends, we can get a little bit more eyes on this stuff. let's go ahead then and talk about one of the bigger changes we had, the change to the NAG of the NAG fleet. We were talking about this a little bit ahead of time, Bed, about the changes to the NAG. There was a lot of, I think, a lot of takes, obviously, straight out the gate, day one. A lot of people having a lot of questions about what was going on here and whether this became more or less viable in a lot of the situations where NAGs were being used before. Just to, obviously, for the folks at home, if you can't read for whatever reason, fair enough. But obviously, they got a mid, lost a low for both the NAG and the NAG fleet. Let's talk about PvP dreads then for a second here, Mr. DeBaws. The NAG and NAG fleet now having an extra mid, losing a low slot. What does that do to fittings for NAGs in PvP situations?
Well, the big thing is you get a massive increase in tank, which is definitely great to shake up the meta a little bit. If people have been following high-class brawls for a while, it's been sort of just the Zern and the PNI in terms of viability, at least for higher-end stuff. And that's a lot of it's been due to tank issues, just the NAG tanks, 2/3 what the PNI does. So having this change to bump it up a little bit definitely helps in PvP and wormholes. I'm sure it helps in their viability and low sec as well. Just having an extra mid can't hurt, but it's definitely great to have another option that's closer to PNI levels of tank for shield. So
it's interesting too. I wanted to bring this up as well because one of the, I think that the potential benefits of this change as well is, especially with the change a little bit later down here to some of the mechanics for drifter aggro, how drifters are now a little bit more free firing on things that are in their zone. They always obviously had a chance to kind of blast whatever was nearby, but they're very eager to do that now. And so one of the things people have been talking about is, we need to make sure you have, a heavy point or a heavy scram on your dreads just to hold them down. And this, of course, opens up a slot to do that if you don't want to change your fits around too much. You lose a little bit of tracking or damage in the low end, but you at the same time you get that extra mid, which is kind of nice. You're a PvE mid, which is cool. Scooping down here, the APOC and the APOC Navy. I think this is really, really interesting because one of them, obviously this is they removed the tracking bonus, they added an optimal range bonus, and they added a damage bonus to turret per level, which is all kind of cool. And the immediate response to this was, okay, is this something that is, they're moving it into kind of a sniper platform, still an armor battleship, obviously, so it doesn't kind of benefit from a lot of the same things that like the Rogue was benefiting from, but also the APOC Navy is fairly strong now, certainly, and they've added a reduction to turret capacity use. So Mick, let's just kind of brainstorm for a second about the APOC Navy, especially the APOC Navy, because while the APOC is cool, the APOC Navy, within the realms of worm people space, is probably going to get a little bit more attention. Does this now become viable for armor comps, or is it still? Are we still looking at the same kind of TFI, maybe Mega Navy meta we've seen or Lashak, obviously the meta that we've seen for the last couple of months?
I don't think it's going to shift away from things that are, that shoot without cap. I think you're still going to see a lot of TFI dominance there. But what I'm really excited to see is if someone's going to maybe change up their home defense fleet to be, that big projection APOC Navy, shoot long, big boom gang type stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to see. I want to see a golden fleet undock on a Fortizar armor timer and just start going to town.
It is interesting because it is in a lot of ways getting a lot of the benefits that the Paladin had for a long time, and the reason why everybody was running Paladin home defenses for ages was because Paladins basically had a ton of tank. It could sit one spot and fire out to the ass end of fucking BFE, right? So they are obviously get a lot of range, they get a little bit more bonus. They're not quite tanking any different, obviously, than they were before, but they're still, it's an armor battleship. You sit underneath triage and pray.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. The change to, and I guess, we were talking about this a little bit ahead of time too, Bed. Is there any capped battleship that is truly viable in a meta where people are not to speak ill of present company, but always bringing 6, 7, 8 Balgorns in most big heavy brawls.
Only one comes to mind, and it's the Leshak. So
yeah,
and you're definitely, it's giving you a lot more in terms of utility than other battleships a lot of the time as well. With the 4 util highs, I mean, you're never going to get that much from a battleship that has to use 8 hard points for guns. So, and even then, it's already, most Leshak fits you see either compensate for the cap with a double battery fit or with a heavy cap injector. So,
Yeah, I think I mean, at least what we've seen so far has kind of proven that to be true, right? Where there has been, people have tried certain things. Obviously, my own group, no exception to this, having flown mega navies for a long time. But just with how much you start seeing Balgorn shrimp, not just big engagements either. I mean, I have seen fairly small fleets undock with 2 or 3 Bals like it was nothing, just because it's that big of a game changer, especially when you're going up against like most armor battleships, which is not an insignificant thing to take into account. This is like I said, a little interesting. The Maelstrom getting a little bit of a change. Maelstrom, not a traditional fleet ship, so we won't spend a whole lot of time on this one, but curious anyway. Obviously, it's I think. CCP Kestrel mentioned something about trying to bring this one in line with the Hyperion, so it would be sort of the shield Hyperion, which is interesting. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's gonna really play out, but RIP to one of the last ships that had a full rack of 8 high turreted highs for those big broadsides. Mega Navy getting a small adjustment as well. The tracking bonus gets improved, max velocity gets improved, and a 50% reduction in armor plate mass penalty per level. We would be amiss, I suppose, to not talk or to miss talking about the change a little bit further up here as well. About, in fact, I'm going to scroll up there real quick, about mass penalties and the armor rig situation. So obviously, the armor rigs have been the debuff on armor rigs has been changed from max velocity to agility. So now you are less agile on the grid, but your speed is better than it was before. Obviously, significantly better in some cases. And then they added a new we added a new skill, advanced armor layering, that will reduce that mass penalty on armor plates. So a lot has been said about this one. I want to ask you about this, Mick, as somebody who is at times an armor fleet enjoyer. Does the change to the rig, or does the rig changes move the needle at all for you? Does it feel like this is something that needs to be taken into account, or because most brawls are kind of sedentary anyway, it doesn't really feel like it's going to change too much?
Yeah, the latter. I think for like brawl stuff, it's not going to be a huge deal. But I think for groups like Phantom Space who love their Brutuxes, I think this is going to be really big for them. I think they're going to love it because they're just going to go zoomy and face blap anything that they want to land on, which is pretty cool. But in the terms of like overall brawl meta, I don't see it having a huge impact. Do be mindful though that if you had rollers that use plates, the new skill will potentially mess with that calculation. So PSA, be on the lookout, double check.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's trained armor layering in the past will know how much of a pain in the ass is the first time you jump that apostle back through and you just crit the hole. You're like, something has changed. Not ideal, but yes, worth mentioning. Let's briefly talk about the Cenotaph with you guys here. NOVAC Cenotaph enjoyers, obviously. I mean, a lot of people are Cenotaph enjoyers. Hell, we fly Cenotaphs as the need arises. The Ceno has been very controversial since it came out. Some people fucking love it. Some people think it's shit. Some people think it's they love it, but also that it's shit. It really does contain multitudes. So let's very, very quickly talk about the changes here and what this might mean for both major brawl metas, armor and shield. So obviously a huge reduction to Ladar sensor strength, down to 25 from 15, which is significant. It's one of the biggest sensor changes I think ever in the history of the game. They usually don't see tweaks that significant. A reduction of 1,500 armor hit points, a buff to structure hit points by 1,500, which is effectively meaningless, but still worth considering. Reduce the number of low slots from 3 to 2, and then some changes to the roll bonuses for projectile turrets and ham launchers to account for the missing damage mod you might have put down there. And then also they became faster. Their agility improved, and yes, that was the changes. No more changes after that. So, Bed, I want to ask you about the Cenotaph because one of the what was brought up in the patch notes, and which is right here, is that there's a lot of chatter from wormholers talking about these ships, and one of the things that was discussed a lot was that they are kind of oppressive, especially in battleship heavy and cap heavy metas. And one of the complaints we heard a lot of early on was how oppressive they were in armor metas. Clearly, that has been taken into account here, and their armor has been reduced, but they still feel really strong in shield metas. Am I missing something here, or are they still just fucking cracked in shield brawls?
No, you're still definitely spot on. I think this is a move in the right direction. It's definitely great that you can't fly this shit in armor anymore, though I'm sure some sickos are still going to try to. But I think the fact that people were willing to design an entire armor comp around keeping a 3 low slot ship alive because it was that worth it is sort of telling as to how strong this is. I like that there's more counterplay in shield now with the sensor strength lowering. I just still think it's going to be way too strong in shield, and it's also really fucking strong anywhere else that you fly it. Yeah. So like low sec, small gang, big fights, this it's still really strong. I would love to see more, but it's definitely a start. So
yeah, I mean, this is I think I can't obviously speak for any of the balance teams or the balance team that was involved in this change. One, I'm not speaking as an employee right now, but putting that aside, I think what has kind of always been true is there's always a lot of caution when it comes to nerfing new things too hard, because people have obviously commit a lot of time and resources into training into a thing or skilling into something, and for that thing to then immediately come around and just get smoked kind of sucks. And people who just experienced the Marauder nerf are probably kind of saying the same thing, but the Cenotaph is very, very new as opposed to the Marauders being not new at all. So, whether or not this is going to get another change at some point, it's a great question. I guess we'll see. But for right now, we get a handful of nerfs, especially in armor, and we'll kind of go. A couple changes, obviously, to Second Fleet, Harvey Navy, Merm Navy, a couple other battle cruisers. Just little things here and there. This all reads to me very much as like the CCP Kestrel special. He loves this sort of shit. Where was the changes? Here we go. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wormholes. This is the first time in a while we've gotten a header. In fact, I don't know if at any point while I was on the CSM we got a header. So think about that. But yes, we've got a couple new wormhole connections spawning into C4s for high sec, low sec, null sec. All of these are battleship sized holes, despite the evidence perhaps that on day one that it might have looked like you could move caps out through those holes. I don't know if that was ever true. I think it was just a bit of a miscommunication. I hope it was. I see. And these holes are rarer than they would be in C5s and C. We also changed the spawn rates of Z142s and C248s. Bring those up a little bit more. And then a big changes to scan levels for all these, bringing a lot of the level 1s up to level 2, dropping some things from 2 to 1, and then a couple adjustments elsewhere. And then we've also added the J492, which I believe is a low sec connect from C4s, just in general.
I think it's all C4s.
I think it's I think it's all C4.
Yeah, I don't know actually what the origin is there.
You know what? I have the power of just looking, so I could just look. The what's it fucking called? The
J492.
Not on this list. Am I fucking high?
Did the website get updated, by the way, for
You know what? I bet it
C4?
didn't. I bet it didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. You would think I would know, but no, sure don't. So yeah, a couple new wormholes into C4 space makes C4 space a little bit less isolated, I guess, in a lot of cases. It's interesting about C4s because, I mean, obviously there are no, like, they didn't get a, you know, there are no new statics, no new, you know, connections like that. But one of the conversations that, you know, had kind of people have been having off and on for years has been the C4 spaces, like the deepest into wormhole space that you can go, because you were only ever going to be able to get out via you know, something in your either of your statics, either your C3, your C4, your C2, one, I guess, if you're a masochist, or your C5. But now you can have direct connects to low sec, null sec, and high sec, which sounds like a buff to C4s. A lot more connectivity, a lot more option for moving things. What's the vibe on this one, Mr. Fightmaster? I mean, you've got your finger to the pulse of the people. What's the vibe on this?
Yeah, so like this was actually I don't know if it was a direct result, but I threw out the idea to the Wormhole UN, and I was like, hey, these exist in the database. If they were allowed, like, what do y'all think? And we had like an over 500 message long, basically, discussion about the thoughts on it. The final vote was like 21 in favor, 5 against, so it's pretty overwhelmingly in favor.
Yeah.
I shared that feedback with CCP, and they obviously decided to implement it with taking the discussion into consideration. So it was cool to like see that discussion actually turn into something.
Yeah.
As far as my experience, you know, I don't live in a C4, but I come across C4s, you know, pretty often. They do feel pretty rare, but we have seen, in the time that I've played since the update, I've seen maybe 5 or 6. Majority of them have been null sec. I don't think I've seen a high sec one yet.
Sure.
I think I've seen 1 low sec and the rest null sec. So, but it's been cool, and like the way it came about, I felt like was really cool.
Awesome. Love to see that. I mean, I think one of the things that the CSM has been pretty good about, not to, you know, stroke your ego or anything. This applies to your comrades as well. Has been, yeah, very good. Has been getting a lot of feedback from the public, which, I mean, we talk about data all the time at work. I mean, we beat that drum every single fucking day. It's how important data is, but data is not the only thing we have to rely on. My good friend CCP Swift mentioned the other day, we also just have to hear what people are saying. And if people are saying that, I mean, perception is reality, right? If things feel one way, sometimes they are that way. It's not always the case, but sometimes they are. And so getting those changes implemented is pretty cool. And then lastly, last thing for us, obviously, our last major thing for us, aside from the Avenger changes, or the Drifter and Avenger changes, which we already talked about, which, by the way, Avengers, more loot. I don't know if anybody knows this. It didn't get talked about a lot, but more loot. 50 mil from 35. Ain't nothing. 15 mil is 15 mil. The information about wormholes on Jump or on show info has been changed a little bit. You're still basically getting the exact same information you were getting before. It's just presented in a slightly more readable way. I shouldn't say slightly, significantly more readable way. I've seen some people complain about this, but not many. Most people think this is a pretty cool change, and so it's nice to get this one done. I know you and CCP know his name. We're gonna chat with him. Rampage, maybe, or CCP.
Close.
I know he's Rampart, Rampant, Ramjag. You know the one. Yeah, Ramjag. Yeah, that's the one. I'm not going to listen to any other options. We're kind of talking about this for a while, which is pretty cool. It's nice to see this get added in. And we added the 1 hour timer now, which is really nice, especially for people who like to scan down chains a lot. Pretty cool. So, Ramrod, there we go. Thank you. CCP Ramrod. He's gonna fucking. I know he's watching this too. He's gonna fucking hate that. He might not hate that. He might think it's pretty cool. Okay, let's then. I want to move from this to a slightly different topic. We're gonna talk about a couple things that happened this week, but before we get there, I want to talk real fast about the Barbaroga. So we talked a little bit about Marauders, and Marauders getting the nerf bat a bit. The Barbaroga, one of the ships that was released most recently, along with the Sarathiel earlier this year. The Barbaroga, very expensive, real expensive ship. This is the one that was. This is actually the most expensive kill in wormhole space this week, more than any dread. More than, I think not more than, the most expensive ship kill. Not the most expensive kill. There was a Fortizar that was more expensive than this. But even this, T2 lows, you know, I guess it does have a faction gun, but like nothing stands out here too much. And still, with pod, I think, you know, you're looking at over 10 billion-esque for this Marauder. And I wanted to dive into it a little bit here. So this is... kills from the Barbaroga in the last week, obviously 41 kill mails for a total of 10.33 bill ISK. Comparing that to both the Vargur, which has 1,400 kill mails, and the Golem, which has 483. Now, obviously, we're talking about very, very different things here, right? The Barbaroga was just released. It's not been out that long. It is not unexpected to say that it was not going to get that many kills. But it was also kind of hyped a little bit, you know, not least of which on our part, certainly, but people were talking about Trig Marauders for a long time, and it really kind of feels like the Barbaroga doesn't know what the fuck it's supposed to be. So I want to ask you, BedDaBaws, about this ship. Do you feel like it has any place in any meta anywhere in the game currently? If not, why are people flying it, or rather, why are more people not flying it? Either way.
I think it's in a really rough spot, and I was one of the biggest Barbaroga stans when it first came out. I was like, this is going to break the wormhole meta. It's going to be super strong. You know, it'll be great everywhere. I think it just suffers from mainly the bonus is just shit. Like the Ikatursa bonus is just like the fact that you get higher spool amount, but it just takes a millennia to spool is just not that good. Like, Marauders are not something that wants to sit on a grid for 5 minutes to reach full damage. You know, in an Icky where you have low sig, you can fly a bunch of them. They're more survivable. You know, you don't have to rely on local reps. It's a lot more reasonable. Yeah. But just the fact that out of siege you have to wait like almost 9 or 10 minutes to reach full spool is sort of insane.
Yes.
Maybe it's not that many, but it's a long time.
It's a long
time either way.
Yeah, I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I mean, even when you compare it to things that don't get used a ton, like I didn't pull this up, but let's go ahead and look at the like the Chronos real quick. I mean, the Chronos, again, I want to be very clear. I recognize that these are, we're talking apples and oranges here because the Chronos has been out for a long time too. But even the Chronos, the much maligned Chronos, is still getting, you know, not quite 700 kills in the last 7 days. And the Barbaroga just sitting at 41 total out of everybody who's got it. You would think, even just accidentally, it might get a couple more kills than that. It doesn't seem to be the case. People are just not flying the Barbaroga. And I don't know if it's because it's too expensive, which it certainly is. I mean, my God, like if we just look at like losses for the Barbaroga, I mean, do all time. I mean, you can see they're all over 10 bill, most over 15. This is an expensive ship that people are losing. So that is, oh, hey, look, cracks. That's kind of nuts, and just not that good. I mean, you know, it's just not getting the kill. I mean, hell, it has fewer kills all in its entire lifetime than the Chronos has had in the last week, which is, again, I recognize they're different things, but still, that's kind of nuts. Maybe got a little bit of a buff with the, you know, the way that Armor Marauders got a very, very, very slight buff in this last patch. Probably not enough to balance that. Okay, let's talk about the NFI. So the NFI has kind of had a rough week in wormhole. This is just wormhole space. I kind of had a rough week in wormhole space. Obviously, the same you know, culprits as always, kind of out here. Input broadcast, obviously going after some dreads from Neighborhood Roach, and then there was this fight between HK and Hawks. Lupus dunking on some Riders of Darkness dreads. and then of course one that Hawks killed from Dawn's Wrath, and a handful here and there as well. So this is all post change. I mean, this is all post buff, and we can see obviously some of these are you're already seeing the benefit perhaps of that mid slot. I mean, you're talking about a Dread sitting under. I mean, this is a Crab Dread, so it's going to be sitting there for a while, but it's still sitting under a Zern, taking 1.5 million in a Crab configuration. Crab configuration is pretty impressive, I think. And again, you're absolutely right. You get that middle, the extra mid, either using it for grappler, using it for extra regen. A lot of cool things going on there. So,
Capri Charger was an interesting choice on that last one.
Yeah, I thought that too. Was that the Riders of Darkness one?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 Capri Chargers. One of them faction through Sancho, which is certainly something. Not maybe the way I would go for it, but hey, I had Target Painter. You know what? You wouldn't have had that room for that Target Painter a week ago. So
that's true. That's he would have been so cap stable, but so not able to apply.
You're absolutely right. Okay, let's jump ahead here to the dumb thing that I did last week. I'm only doing this because I want to show it to people because I spent so much time working on it. We got this thing now. This is really dumb. It's very, very stupid, but it's fun for me. And I spent a lot of time on it. My right hand hurts so bad from all the scrolling I did on Zkill to make this thing happen. We have a wormhole belt, giving this obviously to the people who beat the last guy who had the belt, going all the way back to the very first belt, which was, of course, AAA versus Dark Solar Empire back in 2009. Crazy. I wanted to talk very quickly about these guys. This is evasive maneuvering. They are some nano boys, and they apparently cannot be beat. No one seems to be able to kill them.
Can't kill them.
Can't kill them. If you want,
they got
belt,
God mode enabled.
Yeah, they do have God mode enabled. Of course they're very evasive. I kind of them. Anyway, thank you. I'm sorry, I was not very good. But yeah, if you want the belt, kill these guys. Good luck, apparently, because they seem to be good. But yeah, kill these guys. Okay, let's talk about the reason we are. Oh yeah, here's the last one for them. You can see they're just smoking dudes, just smoking them out here. Per Astra or per Aspera Ad Astra, getting smoked by Cenotaph, obviously.
Yeah,
pretty straightforward. Okay,
fuck the Cino.
So let's talk for a moment about why you're here specifically, Bed. Let's talk about the big fight from the last week, obviously. So this was this happened 3 days ago, in Echo's home of all places, a joint connection. Was it Echo or was it Ursa?
Echo.
It was Echo. That's right.
Yeah, nice view from the cuck chair.
Nice view from the cuck chair. They had a great view from the cuck chair. I know they were loving it. I popped in their comms at one point, and there was a lot of deliberation going on back and forth about how viable a third party would be, and I think the answer was not. And considering what showed up on grid, I can't help but not blame them. Let's talk for a moment about this fight then, because this was, I mean, there's a little bit of, obviously there's some stuff missing from this, because Hawks didn't get a ton of kills, mostly just on Sabers and me. So not a ton of stuff showing up on this BR, but you guys had fairly equal numbers. I think they maybe had maybe a couple more just overall, or maybe a couple fewer overall ships. You guys obviously had a ton of absolutions. Looking at this before, I mean, just to kind of go into the head of an FC for a second, Bed. When you're talking about what you need to do to prep for a fight against Laser Hawks, I mean, it goes without saying, knows what the fuck they're doing, right? And they put together a pretty well-oiled machine. They are very scary in almost every engagement, and I would say not even almost every engagement. You should at least be very, very cautious about running into Hawks, and on a good day, they can probably smoke just about anybody in wormhole space. When you guys were prepping for what you were looking at, obviously you had eyes in their home. I'm sure you were seeing what numbers looked like. What kind of goes through your head when you're trying to decide what you want to comp for against a group like that?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving parts that go into planning for this sort of thing. The first step is just figuring out what you're going to fly. So in this case, of course, it's dictated by where we're fighting. If we're in home, it's going to be shield because we live in a pulsar. If it's somewhere else, you change it for that. For this fight, we knew it's going to be armor just because it's not a pulsar. And going into this, we have a comp in mind for sort of Apex Brawls. We have something that we've talked a lot about in our Doctrine team as to what exactly we want to be flying going into this. So we have a good idea of what we need and where to get it for the fight. So from there, it's just a lot of organization of making sure everything's filled, making sure we have all the right roles, anchors, callers, all that stuff. There's a lot of moving parts in this fleet. I want to say we had like 3 or 4 different anchors, 2 different callers. So there's a lot of people, a lot going on. But
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we talked a few minutes ago too, just to kind of bring this up about the viability of armor battleships and the viability of especially cap heavy armor battleships. Both groups bringing a couple Leshaks at least. They had a couple Vindys. Actually, I think they had more Vindys than what showed up on this on here as well. I feel like there were probably more than 3, but I don't
think
remember.
they had 4 or 5.
I think they had 5, and just the 3 that were showing up on here. So Leshaks, obviously, I mean, I know you guys have played with a couple different options before. There was you had the Ged Navy one time. The
good old Ged Navy.
The good old Ged Navy. That was a good comp. It was an interesting comp. Certainly.
Not, not the Red Giant.
Listen, I'm benefit of the doubt.
2-trick pony.
2-trick pony. Hey, pretty good tricks. Pretty good. Two pretty good tricks. Not too many after that. What do you like about the Leshak, Mick? What do you like about the Leshak in this kind of HA comp? Especially to be very clear, an HA comp without a lot of battleships. I mean, obviously, it's still a lot of battleships, a lot of Nesters, a lot of Balgorns, but outside of that, not a lot of DPS battleships outside the Leshaks. I mean, it's very, very battlecruiser heavy.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the Leshak is it's just, some of your best damage and utility and tank for the mass.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a mass of other battleships out there, the Leshak comes in as the lightest. So it's like, well, I'm gonna use it then.
Yeah.
I get some newts, I get some. If I want to do reps, I can do that, and I can spool up to like, what is it now, like 2,200 damage or something with pyro and all the fun stuff. So it's just a good ship to help make kills. And it offers some good utility, so I like it. And it's pretty versatile in terms of like mid slot layout as well. You get 4 mids, so you can spread out some E-War, you can throw in some burst jams, whatever you want to do.
A lot has been made, Bed, about the lack of dreadnoughts on Hawks' side of the BR and whether or not that would have made a difference for them. When you guys are prepping to bring the boys out, you've got 2 PNIs on here. I don't know how they were fit exactly. I'm not my place to ask either, so don't feel like you have to answer that one. But when you're planning on how to respond to this, are you guys looking for dreads and expect fitting for fitting counters to that, or are you just saying this is the best card we have to play and we're going to play it come what may?
In Apex fights like these, you're definitely planning for other dreads. I mean, if you're showing dreads, you can definitely assume the other group's going to be thinking about it at least. So for a comp like this, as you noted before, where we're lower on battleships, you can afford to bring more dreads. So it's definitely something we're going to lean into. You got to use the mass that you have. So we went with 2 of them, as you can see. They were very effective in the fight. And we were definitely surprised that Hawks did not opt to bring a dread of their own, despite still having mass for it. So
yeah, I think there was the poor sweet gunned down journalist in the streets made a comment just beforehand that there was still mass in that hole before it collapsed, and expecting dreads to jump in, but there was no such dread on grid. But like I said, not to besmirch the comp that Hawks brought. I mean, this is fucking disgusting. This is a mean comp. Like I said, especially a ton of Vindies. And I think it was the Vindies, too, that kind of made people assume, oh, you're going to bring 5 Vindicators. That means you're going to bring Zerns, or you're going to bring NFIs, or you're going to bring, something that needs to not move very fast to be able to hit it. But then, no such dread manifests. And then the question becomes, like, what are the Vindies doing? I mean, they're still obviously great in these fights, but these are, obviously Kasich had the gun Vindy, 2 smart bomb Vindies, with a mix of webs in here. It doesn't feel like I mean, obviously, had you known that they were it was a mix of Vindies like that, then the question becomes like, oh, okay, then maybe that's not what they're playing, but you see the Vindicators and you think like, oh yeah, this is a Dread comp. So then to not see those, I'm sure was a little bit interesting. Did you ever see Dreads on dock, or was it just they never showed up on grid at all?
I don't think we ever saw them.
Interesting.
They had the hole was still crit the whole fight, so there was opportunity for it, but they never never showed one, as far as I know.
And it was a quick fight. I mean, this one was over, I think, within, I think you said 2 siege cycles. Yeah, 2 siege cycles. Very efficient, obviously. I mean, this is a ton of damage. I mean, it kind of goes without saying. You guys were absolutely mulching things. This many absolutions will, on top of the dreads, obviously, will just mulch most things. And it feels like, and not to delve too deep into tactics or anything. Obviously, you guys want to keep a lot of things close to the chest, but this feels like the kind of comp where you really have many different angles of attack, right? You have absolutions that are a little bit more mobile and have obviously a different ammo type than what most people are expecting, obviously with the EM Therm, and can kind of move all over the place. They have a little bit more range, obviously, than like a TFI comp would, right? Or a Nighthawk comp would. Then the Leshaks obviously can just sit on one thing and spool for a long time and force Logi to react to that, and then you can do a swap over to that target that already has a ton of Leshak damage sitting on top of it. Then you've got the PNIs that can dish out damage to basically the entire grid and just shit out damage with I don't know if they were HA fit or if they were you're doing some chicanery. I just kind of assume they're Haws, but
they were HA in this case.
Yeah, okay, so then
kill mounts,
but oh yeah, probably would have helped if I just looked at all at anything. So there's just a lot of different avenues here that you can use to that when you're planning against this kind of comp that you have to be aware of. Putting yourself in the mind for a moment of somebody else on the other side of this thing. Like, let's pretend that you're a Hawks FC or an HKFC or somebody looking at the comp that you guys brought. What goes through your mind about like, okay, this is what we need to do to kind of mitigate, because again, it is a ton of damage.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you pointed out earlier is in wormholes, there's always a sort of worry about having weapon systems that are cap dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have 20, 25, 30 Absos in this comp, and those, of course, are lasers, so you need cap to shoot them.
Yep.
That's definitely one avenue that you can go at to combat the effectiveness of this, especially because they're battle cruisers. You don't get access to heavy cap injectors, so Balgorns could be pretty effective at shutting those down. I mean, it's a very damage-heavy comp, so you need a way to mitigate damage and have some avenue towards success of your own. So for Hawks, maybe that would have been a Capcom Dread. Maybe it would have been something else that we didn't get to see there. But
sure.
Mitigate damage and then live long enough to execute whatever your plan is.
Oh, yeah. I want to ask one more question, too, because one of the, obviously, big takeaways from this fight as well, no triage on this grid. I mean, I know you guys have brought triage before. Hell, we've seen triage before from you guys. We obviously have brought triage in plenty of our fights. The famed wormhole scholar Jimothy Michaels has made a lot of comments about the viability of triage in HA or in high class brawls over the last couple of years. Do you guys feel? I mean, obviously you brought a bunch of nesters. There's nothing obviously that worked out very well. Hawks did the same thing. Do you feel like triage is still viable in modern comps, or is it just something that only exists in the realm of the super elite, like 80 bill, 90 bill, 100 bill or faxes that people have put out in the past or in the future if you're Pyoit?
It's definitely still viable, but as you noted, a lot of the time you need to just put Gigabling into it to get it to stand up to this. I mean, if you're looking at the DPS and newts of our comp, it's probably 60, 70, 80,000 DPS, somewhere in that range, plus however many Balgorns we had that you have to be able to sustain. I want to say we had 6 or something. So you have to be able to go through a lot, and then alongside that you have downsides of effects as well, which is you have to have the mass for it. You have to stay 70-ish kilometers off of it, so you're less mobile on grid. I think there's definitely still room for it. It's just there's trade-offs, and when you have a good Logia option that's hard to headshot and dishes out a lot of reps like the Nestor, you don't have a shield battleship Logia option.
Yeah.
Please CCP, give us one. But
right to your
you
local
have a
CSM.
good alternative, and there's a lot that you need for an armor fax to succeed. So Nesters look like a good alternative.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, that is. I mean, this was obviously a great fight. I'm sure Hawks probably don't feel the same way, but I mean, this is the kind of thing. We have not seen too many of these over the last year or so. As as kind of the war winded down. I mean, there obviously have been big fights. So I don't want to pretend like this has not been the case. But like seeing more and more of these happening over the last couple of months has been pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to reach the levels that we did during FFU, but seeing these kind of things more often, once a week or so, is pretty nice. And it'll give us stuff to talk about during the show, which is so I'm not just sitting here looking like a fucking bozo. That all being said, let's very, very briefly just kind of talk about the some upcoming stuff. Obviously, we have the CSM elections going to be kicking off again here before too long. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you, Mick. I know that you're planning on running again, so I'm sure we'll have more to talk about with that in the future. Not on this show, obviously, because I have to stay impartial, but I'm sure other people will be talking about it. But also the Alliance tournament coming up here before too long. Did you guys get into the Alliance tournament?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, not.
don't feel too bad.
Sore spot.
I didn't get into it. Yeah. It's
Tough.
I mean, it is tough. I mean, it's tough, and a lot will be made about the viability of wormhole groups in the AT, because outside of Tuskers, kind of we have not had a ton of success, but always cool to see the groups that we do still have in. I know we have a couple who are still there, Hawks among them. So Hawks have the opportunity to carry the flag. There are a couple others for sure that are going to be doing the same. Phage wants to know, Bet, are you announcing your CSM candidacy for this next year?
No. Fuck no.
Smart man. It's a tough job, dude. It is a tough job.
I'll leave that to Mick. He's doing a great job already. So
you know what? A lot of people are saying that. I certainly would not be able to comment on it because I have to stay impartial. But a lot of people are saying it. I just reported the news. So that is pretty good from us. We've been going just over an hour, so I think I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Folks, we'll be doing this, like I said, I think once a week or so, if we can do it. I'd like to. It feels like a valuable thing to have, just a kind of a wrap-up of major things that happen. So if you want to be on this show, which is to say be talked about on the show, go out and do major things. Go create some content, do cool shit, and then we'll talk about it on this program. It's pretty straightforward. I don't feel like I need to explain that when you guys are all adults. You know how words work. And with that in mind, Mr. Fightmaster, Mr. BedDaBaws, thank you both so much for joining us. We'll be back next time. Until next time, I should probably come up with a catchphrase for the show. I don't have it yet. We'll see you later. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for having